somewhere right now, a lender is handing a first-time buyer a pre-approval letter, and that buyer is about to make the most expensive assumption of their life. They're going to assume that number on the letter is what they can afford. It's not. The number on the piece of paper is the maximum dollar amount a lender is willing to risk on you. Those two are very different realities. Today, I'm going to give you 4 first-time homebuyer tips that go against most of the advice you've been fed, including one that sounds flat out irresponsible until you see the math behind it. And I'm going to walk you through the exact method I used with my own buyers to figure out their real budget before they ever write an offer. That method is the reason this video exists. So stick around for point 3. Hey, real estate friends, my name's Mike Gold with RE/MAX Alliance. I've spent over 25 years working with home buyers and sellers across the Front Range here in Colorado. And I've watched every one of these mistakes play out in real transactions. I've even made one of them myself. And I'll tell you that story here in a few minutes. Here's the tip that sounds pretty irresponsible. Don't pay off all of your debt before buying a home if doing so is going to empty your savings account. I know. Every bit of financial advice you've ever heard says kill debt first. And in a vacuum, that's not wrong. But buying a home doesn't happen in a vacuum. And here's what actually happens in underwriting. Your lender isn't just looking at whether you're debt-free. Depending upon your loan program, they may require you to have reserves after closing, meaning a couple of months of full house payments must be sitting in the bank on top of your down payment and closing costs. 2 months is typically a floor that you'll see from most conventional lenders. That said, my standard is for buyers to be much stronger than any sort of recommended Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac guidelines. 6 months of full payments in your savings account after you close is what I recommend. Because here's the reality of home ownership. The furnace doesn't care that you just closed. The hot water doesn't check your calendar to see if you wiped out your entire savings to pay off a car loan before it decides to handle you a $4,000 bill for its replacement and cleanup. And now, since you paid off your car loan and have no savings, that repair goes directly on a credit card, which could be at 24%. Or better said, you just traded a 6% car loan for the most expensive debt obligation there is out there, your credit card. And there's a second piece that most buyers don't actually know. Paying off a small installment loan often barely moves your debt to income ratio, but it can torch your reserves. In other words, you gave up the thing lenders actually want to see, your debt history, to fix a thing that wasn't really the problem. Now, if debt isn't automatically the enemy, here's the part that really breaks people's brains. Sometimes you need to get more credit. Get a credit card or 2, but use them right. If you've avoided using credit cards your whole life because you thought that was a responsible move, I have bad news. Having no credit can hurt you as much as having bad credit. You see, lenders can't score a ghost. If your file is thin and there's no track record proving you handle borrowed money well, and that shows up in your rate, your loan options, and sometimes whether you qualify at all. So the move is simple. Get a card or 2 and put a small recurring bill on them, something like your streaming service or your phone bill, and pay them in full every single month. Never carry a balance. Interest is not a part of this strategy. But here's the nuance that no one tells you, and this is where the sweet spot comes in. Your use of available credit looks like this. 0%, not ideal for the long term. Shows no active management. 1 to 9%, excellent. This is the sweet spot. 10 to 29%, very good. 30 to 49%, scores in this range start declining. 50 to 74%. 75 and up, very poor. And of course, anything above that is in essence maxed out. And that is one of the strongest negative signals there is. Your credit utilization gets reported on your statement date. So a card that always reports a 0 balance doesn't demonstrate active credit management. A card that reports a small balance, 1 to 9% of your limit, and then gets paid in full, that's the profile scoring models love. In other words, use the cards lightly, Let them report a little activity and never pay a dime in interest while doing it. Okay, your cash position is right. Your credit file is real. Now we get to the tip I believe in more than anything else. And in this video, it's the one where I'm going to disagree on how everyone starts their home search. Look at homes early, set your budget, but not your lenders. Most first-time home buyers do this in exactly the wrong order. They get pre-approved or pre-qualified and they treat that number as their budget and they shop to the ceiling. Here's the problem. That pre-approval was calculated off of your gross income. It doesn't know about your daycare bill. It doesn't know about your car lease that's going to end soon. It doesn't know you like to travel to the mountains. And if you're buying a home in the Front Range, I promise you'll love all that the mountains have to offer. You see, your lender's number is what they're willing to risk on you. Your budget is what your life can carry. Those are not the same numbers, and the gap between them is what causes people to be house poor. So here's the method I walk my buyers through. I call it the practice payment plan. First, look at actual homes in the price range you're considering and build a real monthly number: principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And then add what the pre-approval never includes: a jump in your utilities from your apartment to a house, add in a line item for maintenance, or better yet, price out a home warranty so those big, ugly repair bills become more budgetable instead of a gigantic surprise. Second, compare that full number to your rent. So if you're paying $3,000 a month and the real cost of the home you want after that budget analysis is closer to $3,500, that $500 gap is your test. Third, start moving this additional $500 into a high yield savings account every month. You're now living on the house payment before you own the house. By doing this, two things happen. If the payment hurts, you found out for free and adjust your target price instead of your life. And if it doesn't hurt, every one of those months just grew your down payment and the account is paying you interest while it does. There is no version of this exercise where you lose. Now, the second half of this tip: while the account is building, go out and take a look. Open houses, weekend drives, the whole thing. You're doing two jobs at once. Job one is calibrating your price point. You see, a buyer who has walked through 8 homes knows exactly what a $550,000 house looks like versus one at $625,000. Here, your budget stops being a number on paper and becomes a real trade-off on what you've seen with your own eyes. Job 2 is studying the location. This is the one that I learned the hard way. Check the commute. If it's pushing past 45 minutes each way, that's not a house problem. That's going to be a future life problem. Check the schools, parks, the restaurants, whether the day-to-day structure of that area actually fits how you like to live. Because here's the trap. First-time home buyers can find a home that will check every box. And to get into it, they buy a home in a location that pulls them away from their jobs, their friends, everything they actually do. They optimize the house and sacrifice the life around it. It's exactly what me and my wife did. Early on, we bought a house that we loved in an area that took us away from everywhere we actually spent our time. We lasted a little over a year before we moved, and we spent more to get into the right location. Now, we were able to convert that first house into a rental, so it worked out for us. But we could absorb that mistake because I'm in this business. Most first-time homebuyers can't. They just end up stuck in the wrong spot with the right kitchen. The budget is the main lever. The home is the second. Get them in that order, and everything else in this process gets easier. That's the trade-off nobody frames for you. It's never just house versus house. It's house versus location versus payment. And now this mistake of mine sets up the last tip perfectly. And it's part of the reason buyers get stuck is that they're shopping for something that doesn't exist. Stop searching for your forever home. The forever home is typically a fairy tale. Trying to find the house that fits every future version of your life is a recipe for paying too much, waiting too long, or both. Your needs will change, your income will change, your family may change. The buyer who needs a home to be perfect for a life they haven't even set up ends up being frozen, while the buyer who asks, "Does this home work in the next 5 to 10 years?" will actually close. And remember my story from a moment ago? That first house wasn't our forever house. It wasn't even our 5 year home, but it became a rental that's still working for us today. The right home for this chapter doesn't just shelter you, it can become the asset that funds the next chapter. Your first home's equity is very often the down payment on your second, sold, or borrowed. But that's a story for another vlog. So stop auditioning houses for forever. Buy the right home for this chapter and let it help you get to the next one. In closing, if you take one thing from this video, take this. Your budget is the lever, the home comes second, and the practice payment tells you the truth before the mortgage does. And if you're thinking about buying your first home or want to walk through this with someone who does it every week, start your search at our website, mikejgold.com, or book a buyer consultation by giving me a phone call or an email. And make sure to subscribe if you want the real estate advice that will be financially sound for years to come. Until next time.